Hey guys, I'm going to do a little tubing flare, double inverted flare. I'm going to do some fuel line. Anytime you cut a steel line, brake line, fuel line, whatever, with the tubing cutter, you end up with a burr around the inside of that. There's a tool on the end of the cutter to help remove that, but if I have the opportunity, I like to use the wire wheel on the grinder. Smooth that up. And you come through and you select your size of tubing. This happens to be 3/8. Oop, oop, oop. Always remember the nut. Get that set in there. And for double flare, you need this little, I don't know if that's an adapter, a tool, whatever. And I'm going to set it this way so you can see this. The shoulder on this die, I think that's what it is, die. That's how far out your tubing needs to be to complete that flare. Get that set in there, something like that. Clamp her down well. And then you got your screw tool. You put your die in there, and it's got a little pocket there that the point of the tool goes in. You want to make sure that that's centered up, otherwise you get a crooked flare on there. And you just tighten it up and watch to make sure you're not just pushing the tube out the other side. That happens. You tighten it up until pretty much you can't tighten it anymore. And that die pretty much will be against the holder when you've got it down. That's your first step. I think maybe you can see that in there. There's no gap in there. Somebody tighten that. Back that off, take your die out, and you know how I said it about pushing it through? That's what it did right there. You're gonna have to reset that tube and try it again. Again, bring it out till it's the shoulder height of the die, extended past the holding bar there. I'm going to get a little more aggressive about cranking that down. Again, put the die in. Put the clamping tool, screw tool, whatever you want to call this tool on there. We might have it this time. And if I can, I like to leave a little extra length in that tube. Don't cut it too short. So if that flare doesn't come out, you got room to cut it off and do it again. Which hopefully I don't have to do. Actually, that one probably went a little better. It kind of mushrooms the end of that tube. That's your first step on a double flare, which on brake and fuel lines is highly recommended, suggested, proper etiquette. Anyhow, you put your screw tool on there and you crank it in there again, and that will set your double flare. Now you can see this is your seat area there. Goes against the fitting, keeps your hydraulic or your gas or your brake or whatever in. Kind of scuffed it up where it slid. That wasn't very good, but I think it'll be all right for what I'm doing. Remember the nut on there. And there it is, one double flare. I only sort of screwed up once. Thank you guys. Like, subscribe, comment. You know the drill. Okay, we're going to install this line I just flared. Another thing I like to do, especially when they're pretty tight like this one is, pan you up here. You can see this up here too, maybe. Yep. Anyhow, I like to get the one end started by hand, finger it in there, so you know the threads are engaged proper, not cross-threaded. And I come up here, I do the same thing. While that line's still loose at the bottom, get that down in there and get that started in. And then you know you're not cross-threading it. If you can turn that with your fingers till it's pretty well seated, and yeah, there's some pressure on that line so it doesn't turn real easy. That keeps you from screwing stuff up. We don't need to screw stuff up. Another thing, I'll bring you over here. Let's give you a close-up. I'm gonna put a backup wrench on this hex so the lines don't have to carry the torque. Okay, that's snug. Then you get in there with the proper kind of wrench there, that flare wrench. Then you give it a little. Then you can torque on it more and you won't strip the nut off. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the backup wrench on the fuel pump. And then we're going to see if it leaks. We're going to hope it doesn't leak. See you guys.